ever see me go off with my video about 99% of the time is because I'm eating a little something, especially with work sessions.
Not drinking, right?
Sometimes I go all day long. Just like we've been on the road for 4 hours and hadn't eaten since about 11 o'clock this morning. So. All right, still waiting on Art. Once Art pops in, we will get started.
Here's John Bordoni.
I need Art. We got John Curtis. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get started. It's a little after 6. All right, 6:02 on Monday, October 26th. This is our work session before our regular meeting tonight. We have a few things on here that I think we can get through the next hour. First, we're gonna, let's see, Julie, you're with us, aren't you? Julie, Jake, how are you, Julie?
I am great. Thank you so much.
So Julie's gonna, as you know, over, I would say it's probably been, we've been running Bustang up here for, I'm trying to think of when I kicked the barrel and got it up here now. About a little over 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Bustang's been coming through Idaho Springs. For you on council that didn't know, it was a pretty tough battle to get Bustang to stop here in the early beginnings. Tim Mock and I had many conversations with CDOT and why we wanted the Bustang. And really what it boiled down to is we didn't have any way to move folks around our community, an intra-county commuter. But since then, once we got the Bustang rolling, I'm not the Bustang, but the intra-county bus service, the Prospector going, it was very shortly after that Tim Mock and I went back to CDOT and said, we got it, let's get this thing going. And very shortly after that, they started to stop here in Idaho Springs and found out that there's a lot of people using that line. And so with Bustang being canceled for a while through the COVID, we've got Julie with us tonight to kind of give us an update what's going on and what to expect moving into the future. Julie?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got a new route to talk about tonight from Craig to Denver. So we're very excited. I'd like to introduce Jeff Krulwitz to start us off. He is with CDOT and he's here to answer any questions. Jeff, if you want to kick us off.
Oh, yes.
There he is.
Yes, I'm Jeff Krulwitz from CDOT. I'm the program manager for Bustang Outrider, which is our rural transit service as opposed to the original Bustang, which is on the I-70 and I-25 corridor. And we've been growing along for the last couple of years. We have 4 routes right now, Lamar to Colorado Springs, Alamosa to Pueblo, Gunnison to Denver, and Durango to Grand Junction. And we're looking to add 4 more routes. And one of them will go through Idaho Springs. That'll be Craig via Steamboat Winter Park and into Denver. And so I'll hand it off to Julie because she's going to talk to you about it.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, I'm Julie Skeen. I've also got Jake Hazan here. We are consultants to CDOT, so we're helping with the outreach for these lines. So just wanted to say thank you so much for your time this morning. We will keep this short and sweet. If it's okay with you, I'd like to share my screen and just go through a couple of quick pages of a PowerPoint, but then we really want to open it up for feedback and comments from you guys. So this is absolutely your meeting, so feel free to keep it very informal. Shout out if you have any questions. Let us know as we go through it. So just to start us off, as the mayor just mentioned, you understand Bustang started in 2015. So that has been, CDOT's first branded bus service. Denver, Glenwood Springs, Fort Collins, Colorado Springs. So it's the major hub. But in 2018, we were able to be based on the success of the Bustang program, we were able to expand it. So now it's Bustang Outrider, with the Outrider being focused in more of the rural areas of the state. So the entire point of these smaller systems that are going to feed into Bustang and to some of the other regional travel routes is to develop a system that's a network. We want a full network that you can maximize your opportunities to travel within the state of Colorado, especially in some of these rural areas. So that's the vision for Outrider. Lots of benefits. I won't go through all these, but it's about improved mobility options, brand new buses. So that's going to really help with reliability and making things consistent. So you have a bit of a consistent experience when you're riding on these routes outside of the Denver area. And just as another quick note, travel for seniors is half off on these routes. So as Jeff mentioned, here are the existing routes. So these are the routes that are operating today. Gunnison to Denver, Alamosa to Pueblo, Lamar to Colorado Springs, and Durango to Grand Junction. So these have been running since 2018. And we've had a lot of success with these. So on the map, they're the light blue lines that connect into the dark kind of purple, which is Bustang, and then the brown lines are interregional, like Greyhound services. So I wanted to mention on the existing lines. So these are the lines that are operating today. We are under the purview of the Colorado Department of Public Health and the Environment, and they are requiring masks. They are requiring us to do some social distancing on the buses. We're actually blocking off certain seats. And obviously CDOT is taking very seriously the safety of passengers and the operators through daily enhanced cleaning and sanitation. So when we talk about the new Craig to Denver route that's going to start in early 2021, will these requirements be in place? We don't know at this point, but we wanted to give you a heads up that that's how the existing system's operating right now. So here are the 4 new routes. So we're very excited. All of these are going to start in 2021. Craig to Denver is the first one out of the chute. So we're hoping that will be opening in January, but we're also looking at Sterling to Greeley, Telluride to Grand Junction, Trinidad to Pueblo, and then of course, Craig to Denver is why we're here. The most common question we get asked, and so we just want to kind of address it in the presentation, is where's the money coming from and how much are you asking us for? Well, the good news is we're not asking you guys for anything. So the funding, we have 2 funding sources for these routes. One is federal, and that's what's on the slide now. It's the 5311F funds. This is grant funding that's been provided to CDOT through the years. And it is 15% of it is required to be apportioned for intercity bus travel. So these aren't funds that are being taken from another bucket. A lot of these funds are earmarked specifically for this kind of travel. And then our second funding source is the FASTER program. So this is the FASTER Act. It's all about vehicle registration fees. So when you write that check to register your vehicle for the year, those funds can be used only for 3 things, according to state law: safety, statewide bridge enterprise, which is improving and replacing damaged and deteriorated bridges, and then transit grants. So similar to the federal dollars, these are state dollars that are also earmarked for this type of rural intercity travel. So we feel very good about this because we think these are 2 long-term funding sources. And what that allows CDOT to do is not have to request any funding from local municipalities or the operators. In fact, CDOT is purchasing the buses for this and then leasing them back to the operator for $1 a year. So that is another unique thing about this program we like to highlight is CDOT really wants to work with the local communities. They recognize sitting in Denver at the headquarters office is a different experience than being on some of these rural communities. So they want to partner with local operators to make sure that we're devising a system that meets the requirements and the needs of the local communities. So there will be a request for proposal that will come out in the next few months, and that will be to identify the long-term provider of service. But they're in the process, CDOT's in the process of negotiating with Greyhound to do something temporarily to go ahead and get the line started in early 2021. So here is the route. So you can see it is a round trip route starting in Craig, going into Denver, have a layover in Denver of several hours if people need doctor's appointments or whatever, and then returning the same day to Craig. So it's a 1 in, 1 out for right now. You see there's a lot of stops on this line. We are looking at traditional stops, but we're also looking at potentially what we call flag stops. So those are stops that are not official bus stops on the line, but they can be used as needed. So if you're on the bus, you pull the cord, the bus driver pulls over and you can get off. Or if you're on the road, we're still working out, maybe it's a flag you lift or a light or something like that. So toward the end of this, and we've only got a couple more slides, really love your thoughts on should all these be regular stops? Should some of these be flag stops? Or are there other areas that we might want to add flag stops just to really make sure that we're meeting the needs of the local communities? So a little bit more about the route. Again, this one's starting 2021. We're hoping January. We're shooting for January. Things are a little crazy right now with COVID, so we're putting a little bit of a caveat out there, but we are very confident this one will start. It's going to be the first of the next 4 routes. It is going to start operating 7 days a week, so that'll be great. So we really feel like that there's enough demand to operate for 7 days a week. And the pricing model, again, about this consistency and how we're setting these up is 17 cents a mile. So just to give you guys an idea, for the full route, Credit Union Station, that's $34. Smaller routes can be anywhere between $3 and $16, depending on where you're traveling. But you can calculate that based on 17 cents a mile. So right now, for the current lines, you pay cash as you get on the bus, sort of the traditional way of buying bus tickets. However, CDOT's very excited. In November, we are launching a cell phone-based ticket purchasing service. So this will go for Bustang and all the Outrider routes as well. And I believe you can already use it on Bustang. So all you do is you go on your phone, you purchase your ticket. You don't have to print out any hard copies or anything. You just flash it to the operator and they scan it. So we're very excited and we're very confident that this system will be in place before the Craig to Denver route starts in early 2021. Just a reminder, all the bus stops will be ADA compliant, accessible to individuals with disabilities. And I've talked a little bit about the flag stops already. But I really wanted to get to this. I wanted to show you the bus because we're very excited. These are brand new buses. They have a lot of amenities, Wi-Fi and restrooms, luggage bays, bike racks. CDOT's going to put these great wraps on them, very open to co-branding. This particular bus seats 38 passengers. If we are required to do the social distancing and block some seats, it would probably be closer to 18. At least temporarily, but we're very excited about these brand new buses. And we're also doing some enhancements, just given the current circumstances with COVID. So enhancing the internal sanitation systems, air filtration, and then coming up with a sort of a plexiglass security door. So there's a block between the operator and the passengers getting on. So that's most of the meat of this. Like I said, Jake and I are consultants. Our job is to help get the word out about these new lines because we're very excited. And that's why we wanted to come to you because you know so much about this local area, but also to solicit some input. There's a survey out and there's the link. I think you guys have this presentation. If not, I'm happy to send it to you. We sent this out through press releases. We've also done sort of geo-targeted Facebook ads around this. So we've gotten tons and we've gotten several hundred responses already. What the survey is specifically asking for is your feedback on bus stop locations. So if you live obviously Idaho Springs you guys are in, but in some of the smaller areas, is there a logical place for a parking spot? And do you have any feedback on the scheduling, when the buses should be taking off and leaving, knowing that the whole vision for the Outrider program is making sure it's an interactive network. So every time you have a stop, it links to something else and it provides those mobility options throughout the state. So those are the two main things that we're looking for feedback on. From you and all the individual groups through the survey, as well as individual meetings and just, requests that we're getting online. The idea is we're obtaining this information. We're going to bring it back to CDOT. CDOT's going to make final determination on bus stops, location schedules. Then we will come back out and we will want to have another conversation with you to let you know what's coming. But that's the fundamental pieces of this, and we would love your input. So with that, I will stop talking. What I'll do is I'll go back to the map so you guys can take a look at that. Love to hear any questions we have. We have members of CDOT here to answer any questions, and love to hear any of your thoughts, any concerns around Idaho Springs. And I know parking has come up at some other discussions. So just really wanted to open it up and allow you the floor and ask any questions that you like.
Oh, I have one.
Great.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Whoever was going to talk. Who was it?
I didn't realize how reasonable that was to ride the Mustang. That's really cool. I know that there was some down to like Bronco games and different stuff too. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I know you guys kind of get off on 40. There's no 70 route into the Silverthorne area, correct?
I don't believe for Jeff, can you confirm that? I don't believe that is the case.
From Denver to Silverthorne?
Yes.
There is a bus lane that goes to Silverthorne, yeah.
Who's
If
that?
I was just
Stop there.
I was just wondering about resort drop off. You know, maybe one at Loveland Ski Area or the.
We stop at Frisco.
Gotcha. Okay. And then do you guys do like the Winter Park, Mary Jane area as well on the 40 route?
Oops.
We'll be on this Craig to Denver route when we start. We actually have a very
I see
good working relationship with Winter Park Transit. They have just recently completed a great big transit center, and we'll be stopping there and utilizing their other stops on up Fraser, Cabernash, Granby.
Mm-hmm.
Super cool. That route's got to be good for you guys. There's a lot of ground to cover through there and a lot of stops. That's pretty cool. So, great presentation, and thanks for the Mustang, man.
You're welcome. You're absolutely welcome.
Changing focus a little bit to the need between Denver and Idaho Springs, which I think probably is where 95% of our demand would be. And I'm just thinking it would be really great if the new route filled in the gaps during the day of the current route going over to Grand Junction.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of spread the service out in town between Denver and Idaho Springs.
Okay.
And I know the route has not been scheduled yet and so on, but just don't want that to slip through the cracks is all.
Okay, great. Well, appreciate that feedback. Make sure we're comparing those schedules and make sure that they're spaced out a little bit.
Yeah, actually, this one will be coming into Denver in the morning.
Uh-huh.
And then heading back up in the evening. So it's kind of opposite of the one going out to Grand Junction in that way.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I don't know what the schedule is, but actually we have picked up people there at the Mustang delivery a number of times already, just our family. And so all I can tell you is firsthand that we have been using it. It's great.
That's wonderful to hear. Fantastic.
And did you say this is once every day, 7 days a week?
So round trip from Craig to Denver and back. Round trip every day, 7 days a week.
Julie, I noticed on the bus amenities,
Yeah.
it was talking about HVAC filter. And I'm just wondering, I always thought that there would be air filtration with the HVAC system. I'm wondering about HEPA. I'm only asking because these are new buses and they might have included HEPA or perhaps, it's possible to retrofit.
That's a good question.
I'll get that for you, Julie.
Okay.
If you want to talk bus mechanics.
No, I'll let you handle that one, Jeff.
The interior HVAC systems always had filters on it, but they're upgrading our current fleet, and all the new buses be upgraded to medical grade filters. And we're also installing, doesn't say on the slide, but all the ductwork will have a UV light in them to kill the germs. I mean, obviously being in the ductwork that way, it doesn't affect the passengers because, it isn't a good thing to be zapped with UV lights for people, but it's all up there. So it's basically we're retrofitting. We spent about, I want to say like $40,000 buying parts for the current fleet, filters, UV lights, drivers, doors. So we did a lot of changes on them just to make them. I mean, they were great, clean buses to begin with, and now they're even better.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad I asked. That was a good answer.
So when does your line go up through Winter Park and Granby?
So are you talking the schedule for the route?
Yeah, when is that supposed to start up?
So the Craig to Denver route, we're looking in January of 2021. It's going to be the first of these next four.
Is the fires up in Granby going to affect that any?
That we don't know. We actually have a meeting with the Granby Economic Development Group later this week, and I'm wondering if we even have the meeting just because of everything going on up there.
Yeah.
But it is something we have to watch. It just seems like it's one disaster after another this year. We got COVID, we got the fires now.
Yeah.
but definitely something we have to watch. Working in the mountains, we've been affected by fires other times. Obviously we go through Glenwood Canyon. The Gunnison route had the Buffalo Beach fire a couple of years ago. Had to do a major detour because of that. So it's something we're sadly used to, is working with forest fires and dodging around them.
Are y'all dealing with Diane up there with the economic development?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Diane's a good gal.
Yeah. Well, she's been great. We've got a lot of feedback from these meetings. They've been tremendously helpful.
Let's see if so running, since you're only going to be able to run about 18 passengers on this bus, is it going to be equitable to do that? Is it going to pay off, or is it worth go ahead and getting started knowing the future? Hopefully in the future, we'll be able to get back to full capacity.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Well,
I think go ahead, Jed.
Definitely hoping to go back to full capacity. Of course, always with public transit, and you know that even with your prospector, you never turns a profit. Of course, highways don't turn a profit either, but people kind of always miss that when they're talking about transit. But I know previous to COVID, Mustang was doing just spectacularly on fare box return. Normally, public transit, like say RTD in Denver, is about a 20% fare box return. We were averaging over 50%, and some of the routes are even higher than that. Obviously, with the rural routes, even with full capacity, we aren't going to be running the passenger loads we would be on the I-25, I-70 corridor. But we've had very strong ridership, and we already, when we went back into service after we shut down, like the Lamar route is up to 75% of ridership right now. And we will be watching the ridership, and if we have more people in the bus can haul, we'll be looking to put a second bus on just to take the overflow.
Mm-hmm.
So, but hopefully we'll get back to normal. I mean, we were just growing. Example, Gunnison, the city of Gunnison was really pushing us to add a second trip because it's just been so busy with that one. And I'm not dropping a hint here. I don't expect you to do what they were doing, but they were going to put up $150,000 to help pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just, that route was super busy for us for rural Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
All right, council, any other questions, concerns, suggestions?
I am wondering if these buses are exactly the same, or are they slightly smaller than the I-70 route?
Yeah, they're 10 foot shorter.
Okay.
That's what we decided, just because being the rural routes, we don't need the full 51 passenger capacity.
Right.
So it's like Julie said, 38, but they still have all the same amenities, a restroom. They're fantastic. I drove a bus for 10 years for RTD, and these are just fantastic buses. We did an RFP for them, and it just amazes me. They were the lowest bidder and still met all of our things. We do have like the drop down chains on them. So the driver just hits a button and he's chained up.
Mm-hmm.
And has all the bells and whistles. It has the lane deviation like you'd find in a lot of cars nowadays. You start to drift out of your lane and it warns the driver. So they're very nice, very reliable buses. They're made by Van Hool, which is a Belgium company. At the time we ordered them, no American companies made a short over-the-road coach. Now MCI, which built our full-size buses, is selling them, but it's a little late now for us because we already ordered them.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting.
So if the road closes, what's the protocol? Is everybody on their own, or is there a plan there? Because I'm sure you're gonna have road closures once in a while.
Yeah, like I already kind of mentioned the fires and that. We certainly do have issues with road closures, especially with our routes that we do. And every Mustang Outrider operator has a mutual cooperation clause in their contracts, so they work together with local transit and other operators. So, like an example, I'll give you a couple examples. On Durango to Telluride, they go over Lizard Head. We don't go over Red Mountain. Still, Lizard Head gets closed because of avalanche that quite often in the winter. So we work with another company in Telluride and just basically charter them for the trip from Telluride, so we get most of the route. We do deviate from the route. Again, when like South Park is closed because of quite often 285, because when I mentioned the fires or with ground blizzards, and we'll go a different way. We might go on up over through Leadville and that way to 70, and we'd miss a couple stops, or we might swing down south, but we always have different routes. And we also, we have several ways of alerting the public to, obviously on our website, ridebustang.com, we'll have any notices of delays, deviations from routes. We do, we're instituting a text messaging service. It's not quite in use yet. We also are on Facebook and Twitter where we announce all of our routes. I mean, we found social media is the best way to get a hold of people in a lot of cases. Some of our routes like Lamar, people call the city manager, so we put out notices of them too. But we do try to notify everybody, and we do everything possible to make sure we can provide service. And I can say our worst route for cancellations is that Durango to Telluride, and we've only in the last couple of years maybe only dropped service completely, maybe once or twice on that route. And then it's just because the weather was just so extreme.
All right. Anything else, council? Any other questions?
A comment and kind of a question as well. It appears to me, without studying the map too closely, the route map, that Idaho Springs may be the only significant community on double routes.
Mm-hmm.
We have the advantage basically of two routes, and I don't see where anybody else does.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I like
true.
that a lot. Thank you. Another location plus for us, Mike.
Absolutely.
Right, yeah. Or we need to talk to CDOT about ponying up a little more money to help us build some more parking.
Yeah, transportation center.
Yeah. All right. Julie, thank you very much. Is it Jeff? Julie, Jeff, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, thank you very much for coming in tonight and speaking to council and giving us the update about the new line and the current lines that are happening. We really appreciate that, keeping us informed.
You bet. It's absolutely our pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time, and we'll be back. We'll give you some more information right before the line starts.
Sounds great. Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Next on our work session is speed limits and stop
Thank you.
signs. With the we had received an email, I believe it went to John Kane and was relayed to the chief. What this is about, we have a resident that thinks we need a stop sign at every intersection on Colorado. No, not every, but is requesting that we put a couple more stop signs on Colorado Boulevard. And the suggested place was, I believe, the 15th or 16th. Chief.
Both. It was both originally. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I will say this, that when we planned Colorado Boulevard, there was a lot of discussion about whether we even needed stop signs on Colorado Boulevard. And when it came down to the end, it was, we needed something to especially slow down the traffic moving through, especially the people that get off the highway at 241, trying to jump ahead of everybody going westbound, and was slowing down. Originally, we just put a stop sign at 13th, and then we decided and felt there was a good need for one further down, because once they got past 13th, they just hit the floor, hit the metal, and put the pedal to the metal, and took off. So we put another one at 9, I believe it's 8. Well, we put it at 9th, or I think we put it at 10th and moved it to 9th eventually. So, Chief, give us some thoughts and some things, good, bad, shouldn't, just some recommendations from you.
Okay. Well, of course, the stop signs do compel people to stop or slow down at intersections. Of course, it doesn't prohibit them from speeding up again, but it does break it up. The current stop signs in Colorado are at 13th, which is a major intersection in the city. And quite frankly, during heavy periods of traffic, westbound cars would not be able to turn southbound at the intersection if traffic weren't required to stop at a four-way stop. We originally put a stop sign at 7th Street because there was a crosswalk to the park, but then we realized from some things that folks on 8th Street pointed out that I missed when Colorado was still under construction and no cars parked on the street. But as you head north between Idaho and Colorado, at the Colorado and 8th Street intersection, it's a hill. And with cars parked along the south curb line, you can't see eastbound traffic. So we elected to move the stop sign there and, please the folks in that immediate vicinity, as well as made the intersection safe. One of the things that we found is that at 16th and Colorado, all of the vehicles leaving the parking lot heading north, they get stuck. And literally they can be stuck all the way from Colorado back to the parking lots. And the reason is, again, they can't see the eastbound traffic. And when traffic is heavy eastbound, they can't get out. They can't get out. So I think it would make the intersection safer if we installed east and westbound stop signs at 16th Street. There's also a request to place one at 15th Street. And I think that is more the whim of the resident that filed the complaint. At that intersection, we don't have the same problem. We don't have a problem with people trying to get eastbound or out on Colorado because at that intersection, it's southbound traffic only. So the southbound traffic, they're stopping at the Unity Center or United Center. They can make the turns. Left-hand turns onto 15th Street can be a little bit more complicated if there's a great deal of eastbound traffic. But the difference between the intersections is that people needing to make that turn westbound Colorado to southbound 15th Street, they have a visual of the road. They can see quite a ways. So that hazard is reduced there. So I recommend that we do install additional stop signs at 16th Street and do make that a four-way stop.
I believe that if we are going to install them at 16th, we need to redesign the curbs because the stop signs will sit far too back from the roadway to be seen. They'll be in front of cars. There won't be like 16th and at the bump outs on 8th Avenue, they'll sit too far back.
Well, John, the other option is to eliminate that one or two parking spaces on the south curb line closest to the curb and essentially put the stop sign in what would be a yellow zone created by the vacant parking spot.
So a couple of things that I would say here. Also in that email, I believe that the person that is requesting this was saying that cars are flying down that road all the time. Chiefs assured us that they've done monitoring and people flying 50 and 60 miles an hour down that road is really not happening. We haven't have we had any incidents there at that location?
No, we as far as collisions, no. And I don't want to take anything away from the people complaining. There certainly are times when people are speeding.
Yeah, right.
But it's not at the frequency that people, believe it is. When you're sitting on your porch stationary, sometimes our perceptions are off and vehicles may appear to be going faster than they really are. But the times that we've been out there, when we can be out there, we haven't had a large frequency of people speeding to the extent it warrants a stop. We'll have cars that'll push the envelope that might do 27 to 30, but going much faster than that is rare as far as our audits and enforcement goes. Now, somebody brought up a good point that, of course, when you see a marked police car, you're going to slow down. Most of the time, the radar sees them before they see us. but there is a degree of plausibility to that. So we're going to reconfigure the way we do our audits, and we'll go out there again. One of the things is when the interstate is jammed up, people can only go as fast as the car ahead of them. And of course, that's broken up again by the stop signs.
Hey Chief, those flashing speed limit signs, do those monitor how many people are going above the speed limit, or?
Yeah, you can get those with that will do like an auto count. You can also get the ones with cameras as well. Of course, you know that those cost money. So if the city would like to make an investment in those, it's certainly not a bad investment. There's all different kinds of configurations. There are ones that simply give you your speed, and then there are others that red and blue lights will start flashing at the bottom to alert drivers that they're speeding. So those are worthy investments if the funding's available. But I believe the last time we priced them, the solar powered units were, I think, about $6,000 each. John, does that figure sound right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So you know they're not cheap, but they do have their value.
So what's council saying? Should we look at? And I'm interested. The other thing Chief mentioned is to do away with a couple more parking places. I don't think we're in any position to give away any more parking right now. You know, we had to open the street back up early to gain what they've taken it on CDOT from us. So I'm a little bit nervous about taking even more, you know, even two parking places. You know, we have people complaining, oh, why did you mark that curb and not let anybody park there? I'm a little concerned we're going to have some businesses wondering why we're taking away more parking places. Of course, our responsibility, Chief's responsibility, is to make sure our traffic is safe to be found. And that's why I threw out the question, have we had a collision or an incident there yet? And of course, we haven't yet. It could happen. I'm just looking for I'm just looking for direction and other thoughts from council about if we want to really look at the stop sign at that intersection.
You know, I pretty much concur with Chris that the line of sight there at that particular intersection is not good, but I would have to come down on the side of no accidents. I mean, the history isn't a judgment call. If there are no accidents, that's a fact. And I can sure understand where the resident might be coming from there, but and then cranking in the loss of another parking point at this point in time, I think would be probably not advisable in some ways. So I guess I would have to come down on the side of letting the resident know that and maybe you have already, Chris, that there have been no accidents there, and you know we would hope to monitor it and maybe do some other kind of enforcement to keep it that way.
Well, okay, I take your point to heart, but you know you have to remember at any given time there's only one officer working, maybe two.
Oh, you're right.
So we're very limited. Also, you know, we recognize the hazard. So are we opening ourselves up to liability by not acting? And is one parking space worth sparing a T-bone collision at that intersection? One thing we don't have to make a decision tonight, but one thing I would ask you to do is, you know, even while traffic is light, drive up 16th Street to Colorado. And if there's a car parked in that first parking lot or space, you know, come to your own assessment as to how comfortable you feel creeping into traffic.
I would encourage council to drive through there and see the position that these stop signs are going to be in, even if there is no cars there. Mm-hmm. The Elk side of the street is a handicap parking zone, so we're going to have to move that further back away from the Elks Lodge. So you still will be losing more parking spaces.
Like Chase, you know what? There's been confirmed collisions at 3rd in Colorado on account of the same thing. And really, I don't think it matters what street you're pulling off of onto Colorado. If there's a car if there's a car there, no matter which way you're going, it's the same issue.
Well,
Which is why the two,
I'm sorry, go
which
ahead,
is
Jim.
why the two crashes have happened at Third that I know of. But then again, I mean, how many more signs do we want in this town?
Now you sound like
This isn't, yeah, but this sign isn't, this is a safety sign. This isn't a parking sign. So, I'll leave it to your better judgment. I will tell you this, I've had to stand out at 16th in Colorado in direct traffic for extended periods of time. If you want to look at parking spaces, how jammed up do you want the back parking lot because people can't get onto Colorado? And this is will be especially important in the summertime when we close Minor again. So people won't have the option to turn on the Minor. So anyway, I'll leave it to your better judgment. But my recommendation is we look at how to re-engineer that intersection if you elect to put in the parking signs. We can always move we can take a handicap stall and we can move one space back and make that a handicap stall. So in essence, we'd be giving up 2 parking spaces.
Chief, I want you to know I personally have had a very close call at that exact intersection for the reason that you cited. I'm just wondering, as an alternative, to be, and I'll tell you what saved the 2 cars from colliding is because the speed is so slow. Fortunately, someone tried to jump right out in front of me, not being able to see that I was only going about, maybe 25. So I'm wondering, as an alternative, if perhaps for that block or 2, we drop the speed to 20. I mean, have you considered that?
Well, the speed limits are sort of subjective. We can post it. We can't, we can't, it's very difficult to make people do it. They got to do it out of being responsible. So at the same time, an F-350 hitting a Yaris at even 15 or 20 miles an hour could have some pretty devastating results. So perhaps, we should just meet out there on a Saturday in the spring and have a look at it then. I don't think it's as big an issue this fall and winter because of, Minor is closed. There'll be less congestion because vehicles will be turning onto that street. But certainly when we close the street again, because of the volume of traffic on that road, we might be a better time to really make a decision on it.
Well, I don't know if it's feasible or not, but is it possible to wire a flashing light over the street, a flashing red light, wiring it in there? I have no idea if that's possible, but
yeah, that's a little out of my purview. Whether we can engineer that. That does bring us to a whole nother level of traffic safety. Now that we don't have any lights in this town anymore, since they took down the one at the
well,
park.
it would act as a flashing
Sure.
light would act as a stop sign. I mean,
Sure.
it's the same issue.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a constant red light. It would be a flashing red light. Just a thought. I have no idea what the cost would be or even it's feasible, but just thought I'd mention it.
Sure. While we're on the topic of stop signs, we did have a call this weekend. A very irate resident on Placer is demanding a stop sign at the bottom of the hill. We have discussed that several times. That intersection, of course, is engineered very different. If you're not familiar with it, people come down Virginia Canyon, they make a left or a right onto Placer without stopping. The stop sign is westbound on Placer at the intersection. So if people are following the regulations, there should not be a car in the intersection as somebody comes down the hill. I will tell you this woman was very passionate. She literally sat in the middle of the road this weekend. But again, I have difficulty with that one because unlike 16, we don't have the barriers, the visibility issues that we have at 16th in Colorado. I just wanted to pass that on to you because I made a promise I would present it. In that location, it doesn't hurt to have a stop sign, but I don't see it as being as critical as 16th in Colorado.
Carmen, were you going to say something? You turned your mic off. I mean, you turned your mic on.
Yes, sir. I was trying to raise my hand, but do so delicately.
Like John Kane, hold up your hand and cross your fingers like that.
I know time is running short here, but I did want to just throw in one thing on the topic because I was very interested in this conversation. Chief mentioned liability, and of course that always is a concern when we're talking about safety. Just wanted to note for you that under the Colorado Governmental Immunity Act, right, which is that state law that codifies sovereign immunity here in Colorado for public entities like the city. Under that law, long and the short of it is liability would not accrue for failure to erect a stop sign. Immunity is not waived for a lack of traffic control signals. Immunity is waived under that statute if you fail to replace signals when they go missing, or if you fail to correct them if they are turned the wrong way, or if you have traffic lights that are, flashing green in both directions. But a mere lack of erecting signs, traffic control signs in and of itself is not cause for liability under that act. So I thought I would throw that out there. And in no way am I insinuating that there isn't a different sort of a larger moral authority or other sort of obligation you may feel. I just wanted to let you know that is a condition that the city still enjoys generally immunity for, is lack of stop signs. Thanks, Mayor.
Well, I think that what we ought to do is take another look at this. Like Chief said, if I always go back to setting a precedence. All of a sudden we put a stop sign at 16th and somebody's going to say, well, why did you put one there? And we're going to tell them and they say, well, come down here to 3rd Street. We need one here. Then we're going to be into stop sign at every avenue. And that's I'm a little nervous about that. I do understand the safety about it. But like I said, I think we've got just like what is the one coming off of Riverside onto Colorado Boulevard where the new bridge is built? You want to talk about a place that you can have a T-bone accident? There's one right there. And I see most of the council shaking their head.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Because that is definitely a bad blind that you really got to look. So let's go take a look at that, council, whenever you can have a chance to go out there and look at it, drive it, and let's bring that back on a future work session. Andy?
Mayor, do you want to give any direction on the proposed speed limit changes?
We talked about this when we did Colorado Boulevard, and we found from the traffic engineers that it needed to be a consistent speed from one end to the other. And that's why we did the 25 from the roundabout all the way down. For us to all of a sudden put up and change speeds from, because you'd almost have to do it, I would say it's 17 to 17, 13. All of a sudden you drop it from 15, one or slow down and then we enforce it. On the other hand, it doesn't make sense to have that, 25 down to 20 for 4 blocks and then back up to 25. Another thing that council.
Chief, did you want to speak to any of the other changes that you're proposing or not tonight?
Well, we've received other requests about reducing the speed limits on Wall, Virginia, west of 16th and High Street. If you're familiar with these streets, the speed limits are currently 15 miles an hour, but these streets are different from all the other streets in that they're one-lane streets, and several of them have cliffs, essentially, or walls that drop off on their south sides. Given the fact that you can barely squeeze by on these streets on some days, a prudent person wouldn't drive faster than 10 miles an hour. I've been up there and I can attest these streets are narrow. Chuck, lives down the street where it's a little wider, but he can attest they're narrow. They're narrow enough that we're not getting fire engines up there, regardless of the speed limit. So I think it is worth it to us. Again, it's a safety issue that we at least legislate that the speed limits are 10 miles an hour.
Are you talking about like on Wall Street and
Wall, High
Street,
and in Virginia, the Western Virginia.
Are most of those streets posted, or do
Yeah,
they?
they're many of them are posted, but by our ordinance where they're not posted, it's 15 miles an hour.
So we're not, we have to change a bunch of signs probably, or just
A
a few signs?
handful
Handful.
of signs.
Yeah. I'm thinking that like tourism through the town, when they're trying to route around Colorado Boulevard, is who you might see going at a little faster rate. Maybe not the locals, but people from out of town trying to go around traffic.
Yes and no. I mean, I can't attest to that. We stop a lot of folks that are in the county for speeding in the city. So I can't attest to that. But also our strategy is when we have traffic backed up on the interstate is we keep traffic moving on Colorado so people don't have the incentive to go up on those side streets. I think we're pretty successful when we've actually got somebody, especially at Colorado and 13th, people are dissuaded from going up the side streets.
so, I agree that those streets are very narrow and the traffic needs to be moving slow. I'll tell you what's going to happen. We put 5 mile an hour speed limit signs, and you're going to have the residents up there say, if people are going 10 miles an hour down our road, somebody needs to come and monitor it and give them tickets. I just think it's going to turn into a
well, Mike, we have that already. It's just we don't have the staffing to put, officers consistently doing traffic enforcement.
So what is the purpose of changing the speed?
Well, essentially, we're giving people a mandate that they have to drive at a slower speed.
That we can't enforce.
Well, Mike, I mean, give me more cops and we'll enforce it. Everybody has limitations. We can't have cops on every street.
Well, I think if you post it, I think that most people obey the speed limit. I mean, you get a handful that don't.
I think if we change it, you're probably going to get more calls that we need to be enforcing it. I don't care one way or the other. I don't go on that street. I don't drive down it. If you think it's safer, get us some 5 mile an hour speed limit sign.
It's 10, Mike, it's 10 miles an hour. 10 miles an hour.
15 now, and you want to change it to 10? That's fine.
Yeah, actually, that was the compromise that came from a member of council is, can we do a compromise? Originally, the request from the citizen was from 15 to 5, and the compromise was that 10 miles an hour is more reasonable.
I think 15 miles an hour on those streets is kind of flying. I think 10 miles an hour makes more sense.
I'm agreeing. I'm just saying, even if we can't enforce it, it at least encourages folks.
Well, it's certainly gonna make people cognizant that the people that do obey the law, the people that aren't going to obey the law are going to violate the law regardless. Yeah. But the people that are cognizant, especially people up on that street, will get it, and it'll be a reminder to them. In a nutshell, slower is safer.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, those streets are just exceptionally bad. I don't know how a trash truck gets down half the time. When we revisit this stop sign at 16th, maybe this summer, I'd like to talk mirrors. Maybe I'm not entirely sure a tall mirror would do some good because they are coming as they're going eastbound. They're coming downhill, so there's a bit of an elevation change. Just something I'm throwing out there we can look at.
I've used mirrors before, and I like them. I know there's some complaints about them getting dirty, but generally in snow or rain washes them off. And if we're going to do this, how much cost is this going to be, to put all these stop signs in and change out the signs? So as we revisit this, I'd like to know cost on all this.
Yeah, I would like to just add briefly to my earlier comments that the two intersections on Colorado that are now signed, stop signs, I have noticed how much more comfortable I am going through those. I'm happy to stop, quite frankly, and then proceed. And that in particularly at 13th. But 8th Avenue, I grew up on in the 800 block of Colorado Boulevard, and it was the same thing back in the day. That's a good intersection there to have signed. So anyway.
Okay, council. So I guess what we're going to need to do is we're going to have to update our traffic plan. Would that be the next step, John Bordoni?
Yes, it would. We'd have to do that.
Okay, so why don't we get everything together so we know what we're going to do, and then we can update our traffic plan before we put the signs up. So Andy, can we get the information from Chief and John where all these are going to go and bring it back to council?
Yeah, so just to be clear, we're getting direction from council to proceed with lowering the speed limits on the streets that are in the memo the chief submitted. Is that right?
This is the.
Yeah, that's as I understand it. But then study the intersection stop sign a little bit.
And a little more study on the stop sign request at 16 Colorado. Okay.
To go with the speed limit.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for the chief on this? All right. We're starting to run. We're running out of time. John Kane, real quick, give us an update on the two items you have under your.
I'm on.
Mayor and City Council, the skate park has been essentially uninstalled from where it was before. It has it's attracting graffiti and some other uses that aren't great for public safety. And it may be time to consider moving it out of that location permanently. As you saw in my staff report, the Clear Creek Greenway will be going through that area, and it will not be able to be there when the Greenway is there. The city's been working on identifying a new place for a skate park that's still on the list. We're still planning on applying for monies and anything we can do to make that happen at an alternate location. I had presented a couple of alternatives to you for what we might do with that equipment. I went and examined the equipment. Some of it is still in good shape. The metal equipment, which is generally portable, could be used again. It may be able to be sold for a profit of anywhere probably between $500 and $1,500 on the website we use, or we may be able to partner with the rec center or the school district. I have had very, very preliminary conversations. Just, are you interested in equipment if it's available with the school district? And I think we may be able to find another use for that metal equipment. The only piece of equipment that needs to be demolished is the half pipe. It is actually at the end of its life, and that likely would have needed to happen either way. And so in my staff report, I gave you those alternatives, and I'm just requesting direction for what you guys would like to do moving forward.
Council? Council? Oh.
I think we ought to keep what we can, because if we're going to redirect the new one, why pay money for all new equipment, you know?
Our
Yeah,
new
good
skate
point,
park will
John.
likely be all cement. That's usually the standard that is used today. So I agree with you, though. I think we should keep what can be kept, but I just want to throw that in there that we may need to think about that from a liability standpoint. Typically, cement skate parks are the best practice now.
If we keep it, does John have a place to store it?
I don't know.
John Bardoni, though. I mean,
I haven't had that conversation with him. We also may be able to do something, store it somewhere like at the old high school or something to that effect. So, but that, I don't know what you've got, John, for space.
We could probably put it down at the old pit someplace and stick it there, but
Talking about the old sewer plant.
yes.
So why are we hanging on to this stuff? Do you have any idea?
The reason I suggested it is because it's in relatively good condition, the metal equipment. And we do know, this is something that's been an important community issue in the past. And I was thinking if we had a place to temporarily install it, it may be worthwhile. But also the kids at the high school have been, especially Mountain Youth Network kids who are the leadership group in the high school, they have been interested in having some sort of skate amenity somewhere, either at the high school or the old high school or somewhere. This equipment is portable and we may be able to use it as a stopgap until we identify funding for a more proper skate park somewhere in the city.
Ideas, council?
Seems to me, thinking that just sell it if we can and start fresh with the gold standard in the city of the concrete facility. We've done everything else pretty much in a quality way, and I think we should continue that. And I don't believe the metal meets that standard.
Comments, other council members?
Have you got any input back from kids that were using that, John? Did they say it's outdated or?
Yes. I have heard parents concerned about the uses that happen there from adults. I've heard adults complaining about the skate park being gone. I think what a lot of the parents of the youth and the youth themselves have indicated, they did a survey of this of where they feel safe. And there was some problems with that equipment and that place. I think they would prefer somewhere a little bit more, just maybe not so far out on the end of town where they can have their kids go. And, we want that to be available to adults too, but we just want it to be a safe community gathering place, maybe a little more than it is now.
I definitely agree with Bob on that one. That was well put, Bob. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think if we were to use it, it's only going to be like you said, a stopgap for the time being. And I don't know if we have a place to put it really. So let's start with new.
And the bigger problem with this equipment, these little ramps, is the moving them around. There's people that are stacking on top of each other. They're putting them beside each other to make a double whoop-de-doo and stuff. What happens if a 7-year-old kid over there trying to move that thing and it rolls over on his foot? And what I told John is if we were going to put them back up, then we need to anchor them, that they can't be moved. And the half pipe over there at the old skateboard park, it needs to be demoed. And if you didn't know, the Greenway Trail next spring is going to start going through that area. So that area is going to get torn up anyway. That's where our Greenway Trail is going through. So,
Council, do I have direction then to sell the equipment and to look at demolishing the half pipe?
Sure.
Okay. I actually identified a buyer already, so I think I can get that done pretty quick.
All right.
All right.
My other item is Christmas lights. I just wanted to give you a quick update on what's happening. You had given me direction to go ahead and move forward with that contract with Colorado Christmas Lights. He is very thankful and said to tell you guys all thank you for agreeing to work with him. The equipment is installed throughout the city. And basically what they did is they left the power up in the trees so that our great parks crew could get their work done that they need to get done in the fall. And our agreement is that when we were ready to turn the lights on, he'd come back and hook everything up so that it's ready to go. So what I was just looking for was to tell you that that work is pretty much done, and just to see if you might have an idea about when you'd like to turn those lights on.
We normally do it after Thanksgiving, like right after.
We have turned the Christmas tree, the traditional city Christmas tree on that Saturday. And typically the mayor reads the night before Christmas, and we have a pretty cool event that night. There are some significant COVID concerns regarding that event, and I am not 100% sure we can do it. So I think that this year may be a little bit different than normal years for what we're able to do.
When did they install them last year?
About this time, and then we turned on the lights about, I believe, a week before Thanksgiving, but we left the Christmas tree off. And the year before we did very similar.
And that's kind of what I was thinking, maybe the second week of November that we turn them on.
Okay, like maybe around Veterans Day, like the 11th, 10th or 11th, whatever that Friday is, maybe.
Yeah, what's the council think of that?
That's a good idea.
Everybody's good with that?
Yes.
Yep, good idea.
Great.
Let's get the best use out of them. You know, once those come on, our town looks, you know, looks amazing and already looks amazing, but more amazing. So, yeah, let's plan on getting those turned off that second week of November, John.
Great. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Friday, November 13th.
Friday, November
Perfect.
13th.
Perfect.
That's so 2020.
I'm working on it. Okay, any other questions for the for anything on the work session? All right, I'm going to give everybody 5 minutes and we'll come back and get into our regular meeting. Thank you.
Do we need to relog in?
I don't think so.
No,
Cool. All right.
stay on. Yep. Thank you. Now leaving, are you?
Yeah, I don't need a 5-minute break. I need them to start right now.
Was that just a feedback? Yeah.
Hey, Diane, this is Bob. Have at least a dozen envelopes for you.
Thank you.
I'll deliver them with the ballot to the box on the corner.
Okay, just knock at the front door.
Okay, we'll do it.
This is your city. This is outside of the regions.
Hello, Chuck.
Hey.
Bob here. Yeah, I guess you figured out I was filling in for Mike this afternoon a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that was an interesting meeting, was it not?
It was. It was. You bet.
So anyway, we'll talk later.
Yeah.
Mary Jane.
Hey, Bob. Hey, Chuck. Hey, John. Hey, John. We were supposed to mobilize the top of the Argo tonight, but the weather got in the way this morning.
Yeah.
Okay, waiting on Scott and Scott. Oh, and Jim to get back to. Yeah. Jim. All right. We're going to just go ahead and get started. We know Jim's here. It is 7:12. What time is it?
Yes, 12.
That is right, isn't it? I have to keep looking because I'm in a different time zone right now. So 7:12, October 26th, our regular scheduled city council meeting. Can I have roll call, please?
Michael Hillman.
Here.
Scott Pennell.
Here.
Chuck Harmon.
Here.
Bob Bolin.
Here.
John Curtis.
Here.
Art Cacavelli.
Here.
Jim Clark.
Here.
All right, please stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America.
to the
Republic, for which it stands, one nation,
Under God.
under God, indivisible.
Indivisible, liberty,
Justice.
justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, we have an agenda in front of us tonight. When we get down to resolution 26, it's under public hearing. We are not required to do a public hearing on resolution 26. I'm sorry, we're not a public hearing on resolution 26. The public hearing for 27 will still go through. Okay, so we want to make that. Diane put it under public hearings. We will not have a public hearing on that. Is that correct, Carmen?
No, sir.
Is that right, Diane? No?
No. Ordinance 13 and 14. They're not on the agenda, but they were noticed as a public hearing.
I think your agenda is fine, Mayor. We've got a,
Hearing for resolution 26.
sorry, Mayor?
We need to have a public hearing on resolution number 26.
And yes, and that's the, here's probably the easiest way to put it. That's the only public hearing that you need. Diane's referencing, she and I had some correspondence about some notice that was done on ordinance 13 and 14, that it was published. as a hearing. A hearing's not required, so the only thing that we as staff would like you to do on those two ordinances, Mayor, again on 13 and 14, is simply take a moment before council votes on those after you have the motion and you have discussion. If you could just take a moment on those and invite public comment if there is any, that would be great for anybody who read those notices and be attending with us virtually and who wants to comment on those. That's all.
What was in the email that I got that we were not going to do a public hearing on resolution number 26?
It's 27 that requires the public
Right.
hearing. 26, there's not a public hearing.
Okay, so, okay. Resolution, but it's not, okay. Okay. My misunderstanding, I'm sorry about that. And then we are going to modify and we'll have a motion on ordinance, oh my God.
15.
15. So we're gonna table this, and we're gonna have a motion with a certain date that we'll revisit this. That'll give us time to get another work session about this before we really decide if we think inclusionary housing is good for our community, if we want to implement this. Okay. I think that's all the changes that we're going to do. Okay. Can I have, so with our agenda, can I have a motion, please?
I would move to approve the agenda for October 26th, 2020 meeting.
Second.
Discussion. Maybe we need to do the agenda as amended.
Yes, I would move to approve the agenda as amended for the October 26th, 2020 meeting.
I second that.
All right. Thank you, Chuck and Bob. All right. Any other discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. We have an agenda. Does anybody feel they have a conflict of interest tonight? Bob, I think you do.
Yeah, I need to recuse myself on section or part 12, items B and C. Resolutions and public hearing.
All right. Thank you, Bob. Anybody else? All right. Minutes. Do I have a motion?
I would move to approve the minutes from October 12th, 2020.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Second part, discussion. All right, hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand. Okay, minutes are good. We will move to the bill. Do I have a motion?
I'd move to approve the bills to October 26, 2020.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Yeah, I believe the second first was Scott Pennell. Discussion. Art, take it away.
I would like to, at this time, state that I have no questions about the bills. So you guys we'll cut the meeting short by 20 minutes.
You got Jim. All right. Does anybody else have any questions about the bills that they would like clarified this evening? Okay, with that, can I have roll call, please?
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli, Jim Clark.
Yes.
Right. We can pay our bill. All right, Diane or John, do we have any unscheduled public comment tonight?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. City attorney, usually not here. Do you have any updates that you want to give us while you've got the floor? No?
No, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move into the resolutions. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve resolution number 26, series 2020, A resolution setting the official dates for the celebration of holidays for the city in 2021.
Second.
Motion, I think Jim was second. Is that correct? All right.
Yes.
If you're not familiar with this, this is something that we do every year to set those dates off that we'll give to our to the city being closed and city staff. This is something that we always do every year before budget. So getting this out of the way is just another step to get into that final budget. Any other discussion? All right, roll call.
Michael Hillman.
Yes.
Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Bob Boland.
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to move to resolution 27. Resolution 27 is going to require a public hearing.
Recuse myself at this point.
Yeah, Bob, get out of here. Thank you.
Hello.
Okay, this hearing will now come to order. This is a public hearing before the City Council of the City of Idaho Springs on Resolution 27, Series 2020, a resolution amending certain conditions of approval of the final development plan for the Mighty Argo Phase 1 gondola at Virginia Canyon Mountain Park as set forth in Resolution 13, Series 2020. This order, the order of this hearing will come as follows: staff introduction and testimony. Then the applicant will be sworn in by the city clerk, and then we'll hear public testimony. The hearing is declared now open. It is 7:22, and I am ready to hear staff testimony. Barb?
I didn't know if Carmen was going to do it, but I can certainly.
Oh, Carmen's going to do it?
No, I can do it, and then Carmen can chime in. We've been working with Argo to ensure that they can move forward with building permits. That being said, we all learned a lot about the role of the city of Idaho Springs and the role of the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, as we discussed in work session. So there are three conditions that staff recommends be amended. The first is condition 3, the water system design shall be reviewed and approved by the city engineer prior to the issuance of a building permit. It actually, I believe, said building permit and CDPHE approval. So Carmen, we might want to correct that from resolution 13. So we're good with Tracy reviewing that at the time of the certificate of occupancy. As we explained, the city has already issued a will serve letter, and we'll get into it later, this site application, permit application to CDPHE. So we're good with that. The one thing that we don't know at this point in time, and it applies to both condition 3 and condition 4, the water system, we're not sure at this point in time whether they're going to get water from Central City or from Blackhawk, but in either case, if this private water system requires some sort of small cost, that is what the details of the agreements concerning the private water system, et cetera, that was what was recommended by the city engineer. If we go to condition 4, which is the wastewater system design shall be reviewed by the city engineer prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Again, this is the case where the city understands that CDPHE is the approving body for a private wastewater system. So same condition as number 4. And then lastly, as we discussed in work session, there are some issues, not any fault of the applicant, but the four parcels that you have annexed. We had said annexation of the four upper parcels must be recorded prior to building permit. We want to change that to approved by the city, which you've already done. And the issue is that there's this parcel that's in bankruptcy, as we discussed, and Argo has, almost on a daily basis asked for the status so this can be resolved. None of us know when it will be resolved. So what we're now asking for, the city cannot control development in land that's not officially in the city. So we're simply asking for this. So one, it's going to be approved by the city, which you've already done. And then prior to building permit for activity on the property approved for annexation, but not yet recorded, the county's written consent to such activity or the city's authority to provide the same shall be provided. So it's just an issue of jurisdiction, and it's as simple as that. And I don't think we should hang Argo up on something that is simply not something that they can resolve despite many attempts. That's all I got.
Thank you. Carmen, do you have anything to follow up on that?
No, Mayor, I think, you heard about this at your public study session last week.
All right, thank you. Now, we're going to hit the applicant.
I think the
I
applicant
think
is.
Brian's going to be sworn in here, but Travis and I are here to also answer if
You
we
want
need
to
to.
swear us on, that's fine right now.
Diane,
council.
Diane, real quick, please.
Raise your right hand. Do you
Travis?
swear? Do you swear the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, talk to us, Brian, please.
No, I think, Barb did a good job of explaining it, and per our work session last week, just want to reiterate that the bankruptcy with the 0.071 acre alpha claim has been resolved. And it's just a matter of the paperwork being processed by the bankruptcy court. And that we have no control over that, as Barb said, in terms of the timing. We've been told by both parties that it should be imminent, but it hasn't happened yet. And thus we're going with the county to get their approval. The county's already previously agreed to allow us to start construction over the same claim, given a letter of authorization that we received from Dorothy Canese and John Miner, the former and current or future owner of this alpha claim. So I think that, so long as the annexation is a condition on the county approval, I think we're in great shape. And I think the other two issues with the wastewater and water treatment facilities, given the CDPHE authorization here, are pretty clear. So we're just here to answer any questions council has.
And I just want to point out, Brian, that I will ultimately own the claim. There will not be a third party owning that little piece of property.
Of course.
All right, thank you, Brian, for that. Now, Diane or John, do we have any questions that's being posed by the public?
Yes,
We
sir.
do.
Okay, can you read that?
Greg, are you there?
Oh, wait. We have somebody on the meeting that's going to, yeah, Greg?
Yes, sir.
Hello, Greg?
Doesn't appear to be there on his screen.
He left.
It was earlier.
Okay, well, we can get in. Guess we're going to move on. All right, thanks, everybody. It is now 7:30. This hearing is now closed and open for council. First, for council discussion. First, we need to do a motion. Do I have a motion?
I would move that we approve resolution number 2020 series. I'm sorry, resolution number 27, series 2020. A resolution amending certain conditions of approval of the final development plan for the Mighty Argo Phase 1 gondola at Virginia Canyon Mountain Park as set forth in resolution number 13, series 2020.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. We had a work session on this, and I think it was a very good job of giving us the details of one, what the exceptions were, and how they were going to be fixed moving forward. And I think there was a good explanation on why the development group is asking for us to do this for them. Open up for discussion from other council members. All right, hearing none, can I have roll call?
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland, Sean Clark,
Bob can't vote.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli, Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. All right. Let's keep it moving, council. We can move down. We don't have any ordinance first readings. Can I have ordinance 13 reading, please?
Got another resolution, sir.
Yeah.
I don't have my glasses on. All right. Do I have a motion, please, for resolution 28?
I'll move to approve.
Go ahead, Jim.
Go ahead, Scott. Yeah.
I'll move to approve resolution number 28, series 2020, a resolution approving the Mighty Argo Mill minor subdivision plat.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second on the table. Discussion. All right. Can I have roll call, please?
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right. Get some light on this thing. All right, now we'll move to our ordinance second reading. Do I have a motion?
I would move to approve.
No, go ahead, Jim.
Ordinance number 13, series 2020. An ordinance amending section 19-15G of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code and table R301.2.1 of the 2018 International Residential Code concerning climatic and geographic design criteria.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we've got the motion and second on the table. What I would like to do during discussion, I think that all of us were kind of scratching our heads a little bit. I'd like Dan Wester to give us an update of why we are considering doing this and go ahead, Dan.
Well, Idaho Springs and most everybody on the valley or in the Front Range is on a very old wind speed map, and they've done a lot of studies, very comprehensive studies that show the wind speeds are very low. And I shared with you guys a few months ago, we had 300 year, 100 year, 25, and we're going with a 25 year, what that puts us at 140, and I think 130 is not a bad wind speed to be at. The 10 year is 115. So at a 25 year interval, for category, risk category 2, which that's most everybody's home. Risk category 3 would be for like, I don't know, emergency preparedness, town halls, buildings that will fail, but be the last ones to fail. They're at a higher risk category, so they'll be at a higher wind level too. So we've chosen to go with 130 mile an hour ultimate wind speed as our new code. And it's more along the line with insurance companies too. So we don't get pushback from them when we put a code out there. Our last wind speed was 100 mile an hour, 110 mile an hour. That if it blows off and that was our old code, they may not want to pay to have another roof put on. So if we have updated update our code to the wind studies that are out there, we're more in line with insurance companies, the wind study. It's just a better place to be.
So, Dan, with these different, I'm not in the construction business, but what do you, from going to what we have to the 130, what kind of percentage of cost on the project is that? Does it really skew the project at 10 or 15%, or is it not that big of a number?
One more nail per shingle.
One more nail per shingle is about it, huh?
That's about it.
Okay, well.
The roofing products they're coming out with these days are already rated there already, because they got to guarantee them as well. It's just the installation.
Okay. And this is on homes and buildings?
Homes, yeah, and the commercial roofs are going to be affected when they get into the taller buildings, more like 5-story where you guys really don't have that. So, and most of your flat roofs there are fully adhered anyway. There's very little ballasted. When I say ballasted, that's the EPDM that's put down, the roofing material, and then they put rock on top of it. Where any more roofs are fully adhered anyway, they're glued down. So it really shouldn't affect the commercial products either.
Okay. Any questions from council?
Yeah, this is kind of all new to me, so I hope I don't sound silly, but you're saying that we're going to be able to say that we can sustain winds up to 130 miles an hour?
Correct.
Okay. We have valleys and peaks. So how can we say, so you're saying that's an average? So in essence, the study would show that the peaks might be 150 miles an hour and the valleys are 60 miles an hour, and you're coming up with 130 mile an hour, 30 mile.
That's your gust.
Average. Pardon?
That's your gust. 130 mile an hour is your ultimate.
Even at the peaks.
Right. Well, no, if you want to really get into the Clear Creek County, go to the Clear Creek County's website, and they have it, a topographical map. It'll take you up to 155 mile an hour and higher, depending on how high up you get. So we figured down in Idaho Springs, 130 is a fair value.
But an insurance company could come through and look at that document you're talking about and say that in certain areas of our town that 130 doesn't, they could disagree with it.
I don't think they will. And
they
to our
can.
experience in across Front Range, they really haven't. So long as we are in a good average, a 25 years is a good average. If you get into the 300 year, it's up to 155 mile an hour. So we chose 25 year average. That's pretty good average. It's not a 10 year, but it's 25 year.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions for Dan? Or any other just discussion? All right, Diane, roll call, please.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland, Sean Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right, Bob can get back in the meeting. Where's Bob now?
Bob's watching football.
Cowboys aren't playing. Well, they didn't play Sunday either.
The Bears are though.
But neither did the Broncos.
That's right.
You did see the Cardinals knocked off #1 last night, though, right?
Yeah, that was.
Pardon?
I
That
said
was
you
a good
did see
game.
that the Arizona Cardinals knocked off #1 seed last night.
Did they beat the Seahawks?
They did.
Ooh,
It was a
good
nail
deal.
biter.
Good deal.
Okay, Bob, we're gonna get back on track here. Bob, you could have actually come in and voted on the ordinance that we just read. We should have brought you in. This is the one about the municipal code changing for the climatic and geographic design criteria.
Ordinance 13, Bob.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have any questions about that, Bob?
No, I don't.
What would your vote be? To approve or not to approve?
Well, I vote to approve it.
Okay, thank you. We just wanted to get that on the record. Okay, so we've got that. We need to move to ordinance second reading B. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 14, series 2020, and ordinance amending section 9-35 of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code concerning liquor license distance restrictions.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. No discussion? All right, can I have roll call, please?
And there was no public comment on either 13 or 14 that signed up.
Okay, thank you.
Michael Hillman. Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Bob Boland.
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
Art Heckavali.
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right, Chuck, you do our ordinance 15.
Yes, Mayor and council, I'd like to make a motion that we have a discussion about this, or rather move on this November 20 time to have another work session.
You're cutting out, Chuck.
Sorry, yeah, I got a message. It was a slow connection. But I'm going to move that we have the discussion for ordinance number 15 on November 23rd. Only allow us to have another more time to work on it, another work session subject, if that's all right with Mayor and Council.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion and a second on the table. Discussion. So what I would throw out there is, I have voiced some concern if this is right for our community and the right path for us to take. So I wanted to give us a little more time to have another work session, whether it's just with council. I would really like to see it with planning commission again, having another joint work session on this topic again, and then bring it back, as Chuck said, on that November 23rd date. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Michael Hillman. Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Chuck Harmon.
Yes.
Bob Boland.
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
Art Heckavali.
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
Right. We will move to our department heads. Andy, what do you have for us?
Mayor and council, you have my report with 2 requests for action, please. Oh, excuse me, no request for action, excuse me. We'll shorten the
I
meeting.
missed that one.
Had a long day, Andy.
So, okay, anybody have any questions for Administrator Marsh?
I thought Andy was sneaking one in on us.
Me too.
Okay, City Clerk Diane?
Mayor and Council, I have my staff report for your review with no request for action.
Thank you, Diane. And did everybody see Diane's write-up in the paper last week?
That's her request for action.
Huh?
That's her request for action.
Right.
Bring it, folks.
John, Public Works, streets, wastewater. Take it away, John.
Mayor and council, you have my staff report before you, and I have no request for action.
All right. Any questions for John?
Oh, you know what? There was one thing coming up, and that's regarding the two, and it may have been discussed earlier today, I'm not sure among staff, but those two large old power poles that used to have the banner hanging between them on Minor Street, and they are in storage and probably need to be moved with construction starting here sooner than later, and off of the west end of the Argo. So just wanted to mention that.
You want to store those, or you want to get rid of those?
Well, we've been storing them for quite a while, and once funding starts, it's the dirt will be moving fairly quickly, I believe.
Okay, my understanding is that the Argo wanted those, so unless the city wants them, I move that we get rid of them. They were torn down. My understanding is because they were no good.
John's making motions now, so moved.
That's right.
So I know that John Kane had mentioned, and you know, I have no idea. I know those things are probably 60, 70 years old. Would they be worth keeping that if we decide and we move forward and with a archway? Do you think those could potentially be used, or is it not even worth thinking about?
You know me, if it's old and it's metal, I want it. So I have a hard time saying no. But I do think that they would need to be looked at by an engineer just to make sure they could handle the load. But I do think it would also substantially cut down on the cost of that project if they are usable. So if we were able to keep them, and if you know, of course, they worked with Public Works and everything to have them for a little bit, we might be able to save ourselves maybe as much as 20 grand potentially.
They are very robust structures and very interesting, and they're authentic. There's only one more in town besides those two on private property, and so anyway, I think it would really be worth looking at possibly using them as an amenity or to hold up the arch or something in the downtown historic district.
How long are those things, Bob or John?
I would have to measure them, but again, it's just my understanding. When Randy Rasmussen was here, he was told, do not use those anymore because they are deficient and they need to be looked at. So I don't know if they're worth saving or not.
I know old cast iron ones, we tried to use them in Georgetown, but they wouldn't stand the wind.
Right.
Or the engineer.
Were those the same structure, John? Look like the same ones?
Yeah, they are the same ones that were down by the radio station.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the same ones in Georgetown.
So you should have an engineer look at them.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we have an engineer look at them so John doesn't have to move them around all over the place? Have him look at them down at the Argo and then make a decision?
John Kane, you want to work on
What's our
something?
timeline for getting those things moved, Councilman Boland?
I honestly don't know at this point, but I'd say a lot sooner than later. They're readily accessible to take a look at.
Inside right now, Bob?
I'm sorry.
Inside?
Oh, they're outside. They're west of the mill, up on that parking area.
John, do we have room down at the ball fields to put them over in the storage yard down there?
Now, there again, we're going to have to put them over at the old pit. I mean, they're fairly long. We'll have to figure out a way to haul those over there.
Yeah, I think that's probably 20 feet.
20 feet?
I could find somebody to look at them pretty quick. I just don't know. I haven't talked to anybody, so I just don't know what their timeline might be.
Well, let's find out. If we can't move this pretty quick, we're gonna have to figure out to get them out of the Argo, and then figure out what we're gonna do with them. If we can get somebody over there and do an assessment on those and say, hey, these are cool, they're old, they're historic, the character, y'all be fine. But then again, of course, are they frail enough now to handle 130-mile-an-hour wind load?
Right.
So alternative use might be part of an inside display for the Historical Society in the museum.
Can I say it again, Bob?
I think possibly an alternative use would be part of an inside display up on the second story of the visitor center for the museum.
Okay.
Just the top part of them.
Kane, why don't you figure out how fast we can get somebody over there and do an assessment on them? Get back with, we'll reach back out to council and Bob about what we need to do with them next.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, John. Anything else? Any questions for any of our department heads? Oh, Chief, you're up.
Mayor and Council, I'll refer to my report, just a couple of updates. The nearest fire is the Williams Fork Fire. It's about 9.5 miles southwest of Fraser. It's about 21 miles north, slightly north and west of here. That's the closest fire, and the closest area is simply a finger. The snow did have a positive effect for today. They actually didn't deploy anybody to that fire, but they staged. So what we can look forward to is that this snow they received up there is about 6 to 12 inches. That's going to greatly reduce the chance of ignition in the next couple of days in light fuels. It's anticipated, though, that the precipitation we received is not going to have a lasting effect on the larger fuels, and predominantly that area. And of course, the larger fire, troublesome. The fire is concentrated and fueled by beetle-killed lodgepole pines and spruce. So we're getting a little break. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more precipitation. The lighter fuel moisture content has increased, but it's going to have a little effect on the heavier fuels. The forest is still closed. You may already know that after consulting with the mayor and city administrator, we put out notice that Virginia Canyon Mountain Park is closed to public use, which essentially closed itself because of the snow. And then I'll refer you to our significant incidents. I do want to report, I was a little surprised that in that 2-week period, we had 3 stolen vehicles. 2 of those vehicles were left with the keys in the ignition and the doors unlocked. There's really little we can do to prevent crime if folks aren't cautious with their property. Those 2 vehicles have been recovered. There was a 3rd vehicle, a Ford F-250 that was stolen off of Colorado Boulevard. That has also been recovered. That year, that period, 2004 and earlier, those vehicles are relatively easy to start. So we have reason to believe that vehicle was left unsecured. So all of those vehicles have been recovered. I did have concern about a couple of calls, the response times, but after consulting with the officers, the response times were actually considerably less. They just weren't logged into the CAD call accurately. And if anybody doesn't have any questions, that's my report.
Any questions for Chief?
Yeah, Chief, I just had to ask, kind of crazy, the catalytic converters going missing.
Yeah.
Is somebody, I mean, I thought that stuff like welded, is somebody getting under there with a battery powered reciprocating saw or something?
We're not sure of that because of the vehicles that we received reports, from, they were very close to residences, so we're not sure how they got them out. One of the more common ways, of course, is about a battery powered saw, but they're very noisy. The officers looked and it didn't look like there was any indication that there was a torch used. So I don't know, Jimmy, are there catalytic converters that can just be unbolted like a muffler?
Nah, it'd take more time. They're definitely sawed out of there. It happened to my neighbor. So, yeah, I mean, right in his driveway.
Yes, whoever did it, they had time. One way to dampen the noise is to cut it by hand with a hacksaw, but that takes a great deal of time. So, we have reached out to folks, ask them to keep their lights on. Of course, lock their vehicles. This seemed to be a series. Folks reported them over a period of time, but it appears that these all happened in one criminal episode. It's just people didn't notice that the catalytic converters were gone until sometime later. We did have some information. We were looking for a truck with out-of-state plates, so they may have been passing through to go ahead and steal these converters, catalytic converters.
Yeah, one more thing. The reason that they're a sought after item is their value is up and down like the stock market because of the precious metals inside of them. So they got like iridium and platinum, silver inside of those, and the market goes up and down. And then depending on what vehicles they come off of, you'll see them, commonly come off of imports and stuff. They have a little more of that metal in them, or the same type of vehicles. So, actually, it's pretty common all over. It happens daily or nightly. So,
Jim, what kind of values are you talking about?
Oh, let's say, Bob, a used catalytic converter, just one off of import Toyota, Honda, something like that, upwards to $250. So big bucks in that stuff.
Jimmy, is my
And then most of the domestics, up $150.
So my catalytic converter is worth more than my car, huh, Jimmy? My Pathfinder.
There you go, Art. Keep her safe, buddy.
I think I'll sell it.
All right. Chief, I want to know, did anybody get this in your packet today, or just me?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, everybody got. Okay, I'm just.
And I'm guilty of sin.
What
Me too. Got it.
Everybody. But as many packages as we've had delivered, I can see where she's probably running short. So thanks for the notice, Diane. Everybody will get them back to you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Last thing I want to finish up with, I was not on the meeting today, but every Monday, we have a recovery task force meeting at 2:00. Today, PhD Dr. Ryan was on to talk about some things that were going on that could potentially really put us on a setback. Andy, will you just kind of give the gist of what that conversation was today and kind of what's going on so everybody on council is aware of what our PhD, our public health director, informed us today?
Sure. Dr. Tim Ryan, the new public health officer for Clear Creek County, he's been with the county for at least several months by now, and he's an epidemiologist. So he came just at the right time to help us deal with the pandemic here in Clear Creek County. And he's been a great resource. And he's established good relationships with everyone, including the city and the mayor and staff. So he asked the mayor if he could come to the meeting this afternoon on fairly short notice, because things have gotten a little bit urgent with the increased number of cases of COVID here in Colorado, but of course nationwide. We're in a huge surge right now. And in particular, to bring it home, there's been a outbreak in Georgetown, and he wanted to share that. And obviously, he couldn't tell us a lot of details, but it's to the point where a restaurant, a bar, maybe both, might need to be shut down in Georgetown, or at the very least closed to in-person dining and just have takeout only. So I think his main purpose was not to scare us, but to scare us, ask us to really double down and really try to do due diligence in abiding by the public health guidelines in our businesses particularly, and that we're a small community here, and things can get spread fairly quickly. And we've been doing pretty well in Clear Creek County the last few months. In fact, we were even hoping maybe by having a couple good weeks, we may not have to move back one level, as I think has been shared earlier from the level just under protect your neighbor, where it's safer at home level 1, we were kind of on probation about maybe moving to level 2, safer at home. And I think that's likely to happen with this outbreak in Georgetown. So I think that's kind of the overview. I think we're very fortunate to have this kind of connection with public health, and that the public health director can feel that he can come to us and speak to us and answer our questions. We, at the Recovery Task Force, we have business owners there, we have residents, staff, we have a really good cross section of the community there. Just about every week we have a great turnout. So it's a good way of getting the word out. And just a word of caution that as we go into the winter here and people start to move inside, it's going to be more and more difficult to sustain business operations, to stay healthy. And he also emphasized what just came out at the state level, and that is no group gatherings, even in your home, of more than 10 people, and no more than 2 households represented. So in that gathering. So really, it seems hard to keep this up. It seems to get harder and harder, but we really need to exhibit perseverance at this time.
I would like to add a little bit more detail. I think Andy's been really diplomatic, and thank you, Andy. Anyway, I was in on the meeting as well, filling in for Mike. And Dr. Ryan, first of all, very impressive guy. I think his relationship with the business community is also very positive. And so I think it seems to me the county hit a home run with him. But back to the Georgetown incident specifically, an unnamed food establishment and bar had an employee who actually had COVID with symptoms go to work and expose all the employees and an unknown number of patrons, possibly a fairly large number, unknown patrons. And to me, even though Dr. Ryan did not use this term, it, in my mind, has every possibility of being a super spreader event. And it may not turn out that way, and we may never be able to prove it simply because of the lack of contact tracing, and in some instances, the lack of cooperation of some of the people that were involved in the initial exposure. So anyway, that's really about it, and it is of major concern. And if we can somehow, avoid that those connections to Idaho Springs, which I think will be almost impossible, that would be really good. But that's certainly the way to do it. But anyway, Dr. Ryan is doing everything that he can with the resources he has, which are substantial. I would say this COVID outbreak is costing the county a great deal of money, and the accounting someday, I know that it's being reimbursed certainly, but the cost of this pandemic, even in Clear Creek County and in Idaho Springs, which we know is going to be massive. And the second wave, the numbers from the state level were pretty concerning. I think that Andy would agree with that. That's all.
So Dr. Ryan's kept us really informed about things that are going on. And I didn't talk directly to him, but I talked to Alyssa, and we all got to understand that it's not just Georgetown that would get shut down if this thing goes backwards. We're a county as one. So the county has to stay in a group. If there's something that is going on in Georgetown, it reflects back on us. It's a county-wide thing. So he's keeping us very informed. Hopefully nothing will come out of this. We're at level 1. We're teetering on level 2, which really wouldn't affect our community and our businesses going back to level 2, because we just don't have the capacity that they could provide to get to those numbers. So we'd still be okay. If we ever get back to that level 3, we better hang on for a long ride, because all of a sudden now restaurants are back to 25% or less patrons inside the building, less patrons inside retail shops and things like that. So, we need to keep our fingers crossed that this doesn't get worse. And there's also an expectancy with Thanksgiving coming up that we all like to spend time with our families, and they come from everywhere across the country to one location. And then whether we go somewhere and bring it back with us, or they come to us and leave, and there's a transmission that way. So we know Thanksgiving's about family time and being with family, and hopefully folks understand how serious this is. I'm in a state right now, I'm in Arkansas, and 0 people are wearing masks. They've got doors on all the masks. They've got masks, they've got notes on all the doors that you have to wear masks, and nobody does. It's like, and they look at Michelle and I funny when we're walking out of a restaurant. They're kind of looking at us like, what are these people doing with a mask on? So it's real. There's states that just, are really willy-nilly about it and not doing the things. And I'm proud and glad to be a part of a community that really cares about our community health, our state health. And, I know there's a lot of pushback on Governor Polis about doing a statewide mandate and everything. And a lot of people saying you can't do this to us and our businesses. But I want to be healthy. I want to see my kids and my grandkids grow up.
One detail I did forget is that they will be doing some very extensive testing in Georgetown starting tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I was going to ask that, Bob. Do they have testing for those people up there? And then where do Idaho Springs residents have to go for testing?
That I don't know. Andy and Mike might know that. By the way, these tests will be run through a lab in California with a 48-hour return. They're running around 20-some thousand tests a day in Colorado, from what Dr. Ryan was saying, and the state lab can only handle 5,000. And so the lab in California has turned out to be a great partner, apparently, up to this point. So, and the 2-day turnaround's about as good as it could get. It's not perfect, but best they can do.
Steve, John,
aren't we still doing the testing on what is that, in between the 2 churches there on 17th?
That's where I was.
Or 18th or whatever on Tuesdays?
That's right. Yes.
And it's free.
Tuesday or.
Yeah, it's free. Yeah.
It is.
I remember Bob was wearing a COVID mask long before it was cool. I mean, I remember that.
Yeah, I was cutting edge on an area I didn't want to be.
Yeah, man, you were COVID before COVID.
Fashion center.
To set that bar, that's for sure.
Okay, I think that's it. Everybody has seen that we have opened the Minor Street back up. I've talked with a couple of business owners, and they said that one of the smartest things we decided to do, when we lost over 100 parking places behind Bojo's and Tommyknockers with the construction, we had to get some more parking. For us to lose that with what we already lost and trying to go in, I think it was the right move, and I believe all the businesses agreed that it was the right move to go ahead and do it a week early, get it open back up so people can start parking and open those 55 places back up. All right. Anything else from council before we adjourn?
Last thing, and quickly, I just wanted to thank John Bardoni and crew. He spent about 4 hours a few days ago at the Idaho Springs Cemetery with Lou Howard, and we did a pretty thorough inspection. And I just want to thank the crew for getting all the slash and everything out of there. It looked great.
Thank you. I will pass that on to the guys.
Yeah, thanks, John. All right, with that, it is 8:09, and we're going to adjourn this meeting. Everybody have a good evening.
Good night, everyone.
All right, be safe, everyone.